next project we'll be making a tool to remove the arbor from this universal grinder or D-bit grinder. They only give you the tooling to remove the wheel directed off the shaft, so you can do that, possibly, if it allows me to, trying to do it one-handed. Right, so what's the problem with that? Well, then you could go and turn around and put this fella back on if you wanted to swap. Okay, great. Problem being is, every time you do that, you're going to need to redress this wheel because it's not going to be held in exactly the same place. So you'll be forever dressing the wheel, throwing extra grit and stuff around your workshop. So what a lot of people do, and I'm going to do it as well, is you make your own arbors so that every wheel that you use can have its own arbor and everything pressed set up, so that all you need to do is undo the hexagon and press off the shaft, and then you've got every single wheel can have its own arbor set up, so every time it goes back on it's got to be pretty close, assuming that this is nice and true. Let's continue. Okay, so let's start this project here. Got a bit of hex just from stock that I've had laying around. Just going to put a centre drill up the centre of it, and then we'll pull it out and we'll turn down about 2 inches, 50mm, where I need to thread it as an M8 by 1.25 pitch, so that we can make this tool for this D-bit or universal grinder. So we'll fire up the lathe. Pull this through. Got a fair bit sticking out the back of the machine there. This is about 3-4 foot long. Change out for a live centre. Okay, so is that far enough out? Probably not. Okay, so doesn't have to be accurate because thread just needs to be at least 50mm long. I'm going to cut a piece off, cut the end off where I've counter centre drilled it, so if we make it 60 down towards that mark there, that's where we need to turn to. That's not really enough off. Try that. Spinning at 350 RPM at the moment. Just got a bit too much hanging out the back of the spindle of the lathe, and I didn't want to have it start whipping around. Take 1 mil off. That's total, so that's 40 thou overall diameter. Interesting to see how this performs, as these are cheap Chinese inserts. Well, shouldn't they cheap? They might just be well made and cost effective. Okay, so I'll keep on going until I'm nearly down to our diameter we need, which is around about 8 millimeters. Put this off in the part with the parting blade. Put the blade in pretty close. Hopefully we don't have any dramas like last time. Camera's just shaking slightly because of the amount I've got hanging out of this tailstock, the spindle on the other end, just shaking the lathe slightly, so I hope it's not too bad. Start it off without any dramas. So if you want to see why the lathe is shaking, you've got to be careful with how much you've got hanging out of your spindle. Set up. Should go across to there, and you can just see it there. Any faster, that could be nasty. Let's put a chamfer on here. Right, so do I thread it with a die, or do I use the threading tool? Don't know, I'll have to think about it. So I've decided to use a die to put it together. I've got a ratcheting style head on this. So I've already done part of it. Got machining gear, lathing gear, low speed, so a lot of gears and stuff. Still going to try and turn it over a little bit. Let's back it off a bit. Forward. So on and so forth until it's done. So let's part this off. I need to have a cut here for a bit. Don't want that to whip around on me. Good old-fashioned Mr. Hacksaw. Just in case that was going to start whipping around and damaging the thread and other scenarios. Rightio. So let's take that out of there. Remove that. Piece back into there. Face that lid off just to clean him up. wasn't easy to do with the triangle one. Rightio, so take this out of here and I'll finish threading all the way down to the bottom here with the die. So in addition, or an ending to what I started making yesterday, which was the little tool for popping out the arbor on a D-bit grinder or universal grinder, wow, this was on tight. So effectively that screws in and bottoms out in the bottom of the hole in the shaft on the universal grinder and pops this off. Look at, I'm not sure if you can see, this shaft is bent right on the end. That's how much pressure I had to put on. I made this out of hex bar and I just used a shifter or a wrench, adjustable, put on there to apply the force. I may add some T-wrenches and bits and pieces later on to this, but for now I'm not going to pull this in and out too often. But what I want to do is make another one of these arbors, or another two. So when you're using the grinders, just let me go and grab a wheel. Just hang on a second. So here are a couple of wheels. Hopefully they're on the camera. The machine only comes with one arbor. Now the arbor is normally mounted to a wheel like such. Nice fit. Got a washer. You've got a nut. What's supposed to happen, or what they want you to do in the design of it, is to leave the arbor on the machine and take the wheel off. This is still on the machine, put another wheel on. So if you wanted to change wheels a little bit more often, what would happen is you would have an arbor set up on the machine with this, and this would be all running nice and true because you've trued it up before you started using it. And then as soon as you took it off to put on the diamond, your settings, or where this was sitting true before, within this, I mean it has got a tiny bit of play, it's not a lot, but when you come to put this one back on again, it's going to be out. Then you have to true it up again, and so on and so forth. If you can mount each wheel with its own arbor, because it has got this nice little taper in the back of it, it's going to sit on the shaft really close every time. So I'm going to make this little setup here for at least 2 more wheels, so I'll have 3 in total. All I've got to do is copy what we've got. Okay, that's a bit of felt, whoop-de-doo. This fella here, we're looking at an OD of close enough to 50 millimeters. The piece of shaft that I've got is 60 millimeters. I've had a look on the machine, and 60 millimeters is not a problem to be bigger, but my 4-jaw chuck only has a through hole of 55 millimeters. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make the diameter of these arbors, I'm going to make them 54. Length, we've got 36 millimeters long. So I'm going to take you now over to the universal grinder and then to the lathe, and then you can see how I've got to approach making this. So here's our universal grinder. This is the little guy we're going to be replicating. It goes up in here. As you can see by the clearance around the outside, this was bigger diameter here. It's not going to really be any issues. So now we'll move over to the lathe. Okay, so this is the lump of shaft that I've got to come up with these. 60mm in diameter. Now the issue I've got, of course, is that the spindle bore on this machine is 38mm. So no way, and plus the chuck, there's no way that's going down in there. So I'm just going to have a bit of a fiddle, and we're going to turn down this end to 54mm, and then I'm going to take a bit of a educated guess on the length that we're going to need to do to make two of these, and I'll have a look at the washer diameters as well and see if I need to make it a bit longer as well to come up with the washers. Now, next problem is, with this out here like this, how do you drill a spot down in there for your centre drill? So I'll be taking this out of the lathe, and I'll be manually marking the centre of the shaft, and then I'll put the centre drill in with the drill press. Then we'll mount it back in and go from there. So we have to find the centre. This thing's called a centre square. Basically put it anywhere around the outside of the shaft. They come in different sizes, as long as the shaft's round, obviously. Basically hold on to it. I've just coloured the line, coloured the area in the centre black, so it'll show up the lines easier. And then you scribe a line. I always like to go roughly 90 degrees. Scribe a line. And then sort of split that 45, scribe a line. Now if this was quite round, which it does appear to be, all those lines will intersect right in the centre there, and that's where we've got to drill our, put our centre drill. So take our centre pop, eyesight's not like it used to be, even with a bit of glasses. Rightio, so we've got a nice centre pop in there, pretty close to the centre. So now we move on to the drill press.